March 3rd, day 62, Deuteronomy 11 through 13. So love God, your God, guard well his rules and regulations, obey his commandments for the rest of time. Today, it's very clear that it isn't your children who are front and center here. They weren't in on what God did, didn't see the acts, didn't experience the discipline, didn't marvel at his greatness, the way he displayed his power in the miracle signs and deeds that he let loose in Egypt, on Pharaoh king of Egypt and all his land. God drowned them, and you're standing here today alive. Nor was it your children who saw how God took care of you in the wilderness up until the time you arrived here. What he did, the sons of Eleb, son of Reuben, how the earth opened its jaws and swallowed them with their families, their tents, and everything around them, right out of the middle of Israel. Yes, it was you, your eyes, that saw great things that God did. So it is you who are in charge of keeping the entire commandment that I command you today, so that you'll have the strength to invade and possess the land that you are crossing the river to make your own. Your obedience will give you a long life on the soil that God promised to give your ancestors and their children, a land flowing with milk and honey. The land you are entering to take up ownership isn't like Egypt, the land you left, where you had to plant your own seed and water it yourselves as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are about to cross the river and take for your own is a land of mountains and valleys. It drinks water that rains from the sky. It's a land that God personally tends. He's the gardener. He alone keeps his eye on it all year long. From now on, if you listen obediently to the commandments that I am commanding you today, love God, your God, and serve him with everything you have within you, he'll take charge of sending the rain at the right time, both autumn and spring rains, so that you'll be able to harvest your grain. That's right, if you diligently keep all his commandments that I command you to obey, love God, your God, do what he tells you, stick close to him. God on his part will drive out all these nations and stand in your way. Yes, he'll drive out nations much bigger and stronger than you. Each square inch on which you place your foot will be yours. Your borders will stretch from the wilderness to the mountains of Lebanon, from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand in your way. Everywhere you go, God sent fear and trembling will precede you, just as promised. I've brought you today to the crossroads of blessing and curse. The blessing, if you listen obediently to the commandments of God, your God, which I command you today. The curse, if you don't pay attention to the commandments of God, your God, but leave the road that I command you today, following other gods of which you know nothing. Here's what comes next. When God, your God, brings you into the land that you are going to make your own, you are to give out the blessing from Mount Gerizim and curse from Mount Abel. After you cross the Jordan River, follow the road to the west through Canaanite settlements in the valley near Gilgal and the oaks of Moreh. You are crossing the Jordan River to invade and take the land that God, your God, is giving you. Be vigilant. Observe all the regulations and rules I am setting before you today. Deuteronomy chapter 12. These are the rules and regulations that you must diligently observe for as long as you live in this country that God, the God of your fathers, has given you to possess. Ruthlessly demolish all the sacred shrines where the nations that were driving out worship their gods. Wherever you find them, on hills and mountains or in groves and green trees. Tear apart their altars, smash their phallic pillars, burn their sex and religious shrines, break up their carved gods, obliterate the names of the god sites. Stay clear of those places. Instead, find the site that God, your God, will choose and mark it with his name as a common center for all the tribes of Israel. Assemble there. Bring to the place your absolution offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and tribute offerings. Celebrate everything that you and your families have accomplished under the blessing of God, your God. Don't continue doing things the way you are doing them at present, each of us doing as we wish. Until now, you haven't arrived at the goal, the resting place, the inheritance that God, your God, is giving you. But the minute you cross the Jordan River and settle into the land God, your God, is enabling you to inherit, he'll give you the rest of all their surrounding enemies. You'll be able to settle down and live safely. Be extra careful. Don't offer your absolution offerings just any place that strikes your fancy. And make sure that as long as you live on your land, you never neglect the Levite. When God your God expands your territory as he promised he would do, and you say, I'm hungry for meat, because you happen to be craving meat at the time, go ahead and eat as much meat as you want. If you're too far away from the place that God your God has marked with his name, it's all right for you to slaughter animals and herds and flocks that God has given you. In your own towns, you may eat as much of them as you want. When God your God cuts off the nations whose land you are invading, shoves them out of your way so that you displace them and settle into the land, be careful that you don't get curious about them after they've been destroyed before you. Don't get fascinated with their gods, thinking, I wonder what it was like for them, worshiping their gods. Diligently do everything I command you the way I command you. Don't add to it, don't subtract from it. Deuteronomy 13. When a prophet or a visionary gets up in your community and gives out a miracle sign or wonder, and the miracle sign or wonder that he gave out happens and he says, let's follow other gods. These are gods you know nothing about. Let's worship them. Don't pay any attention to what the prophet or visionary says. God your God is testing you to find out if you totally love him with everything you have in you. You are to follow God your God, hold him in deep reverence, keep his commandments, listen obediently to what he says, serve him, hold on to him for dear life. When word comes in from one of your cities that God your God is giving you to live in, reporting that evil men have gotten together with some of the citizens of the city and have broken away, ask questions, investigate. If it turns out that the report is true and this abomination did in fact take place in your community, you must execute the citizens of the town. Kill them, setting that city apart from holy destruction. The city and everything in it, including its animals. Gather the plunder in the middle of the town square and burn it all. Turn and plunder together up in smoke, a holy sacrifice to God your God. Leave it there, ashes and ruins. Don't build on that site again, and don't let any of the plunder devoted to holy destruction stick to your fingers. Get rid of it so that God may turn from anger to compassion, generously making you prosper just as he promised your ancestors. Yes, obediently listen to God your God, keep all his commandments that I am giving you today, do the right thing in the eyes of God your God.